Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Have you ever thought you saw something and then it was gone? Or sensed something or even felt something and just wondered, what was it? It must have been nothing. Maybe it was something. And we're going to look into the paranormal aspect of that and more with a guy that has the background, has the schooling, has the experience. He is a medium. He is Tim Medium, and he's back with us. Hey, Tim, how are you?
I'm good, Steve. How are you? Thank you.
Very well, very well. Good to have you back. And this is something I don't believe I've ever really talked about. And it's things that you see. I don't know if we call them signs or just stuff that happens. And then you wonder, was that actually, did I really see that? Did I think I saw that? And then you kind of write it off. What are your thoughts on all that?
For the most part, I think it's the spirit world trying to either guide us, contact us, or both of the above, actually. I think there's reasons they come at specific times. They just don't come at random times, and it is to guide us, I think.
I had it happen to me the other day. I was working later in the afternoon, and in my office, which is right there, corner of my eye, I thought I saw something. And I thought, it's just you. Maybe you didn't really see it. I looked over, I didn't see anything else. I wanted to see it again so I could maybe validate it in my mind, but I could swear like I just saw something dart past me. Is that what people typically describe?
Many times it's exactly that. It's the corner of the eye. That's one of the most common I've heard. I've heard many different types of interaction with the spirit world, but that one rates top of the list for sure. And quite often it's them guiding you or wanting to connect with you.
So when those things happen in that moment, should we stop everything and just analyze what we were doing at that moment? Like, for example, maybe it was something I was working on. Maybe it was a thought I was having. Maybe that's why it popped up at that moment. I didn't take the time to put those two together because I kind of just wrote it off. It's just nothing. Is that what we should be doing at that moment?
For the most part, go to what you're thinking or what you're dealing with. Those are the reasons why they come at those particular moments in time. They just don't come randomly. They try to help us when those things happen, or what we're dealing with in our life, and that's why they produce themselves at those specific moments. Yeah,
Wow.
very true.
You're tuned in because it's what you do. Have you experienced that? Have things popped up around you and you're like, what was that? Or it's normal for you?
Before I started, Steve, what typically would happen for me was I would see things out of the corner of my eye. I would see things. I would come around corners, and there would be an apparition standing there. Those things were many. Uh, I would say in the hundreds, but uh, I wasn't tuned into why they were seeing things or why they were showing themselves to me and why I was being able to see different apparitions or things out of the corner of my eye or orbs or what have you. Now I'm before I would dial in maybe once every 3 weeks, but now I'm dialed in every second to second to where I see different types of scenarios as opposed to out of the corner of my eye or per se an apparition. I still do see those things on occasion, but it's gone down from probably 100 to 20 or to 10 even that I would see those particular things as opposed to what I do see now, which is being touched, seeing hands or the feeling of their presence is much more than it ever used to be.
Wow. I do know. I think maybe the first time we got together, I mentioned that I asked for signs from someone that has passed over specifically, and I gotta say 80% of the time I get the sign, and it's very specific. There's no question in my mind that it was sent there for me to get an answer, validate, um, whatever it might be. But it's very specific. I mean, I can't even just punch a hole in it. It was there. Um, have you done that? And do you suggest that people do that? Just say, hey, I'm struggling with something, or I need an answer, universe or whoever, please show me a sign.
Definitely. I tell that to my clients on a regular basis whenever they inquire. They're there. They're always there. All you have to do is ask and watch them go. They'll go and they're going to work for you on the other side. That's what they're there to do. So it's pretty, that is pretty, the results will be there for you sooner than you probably might think they might be. Maybe not in the particular fashion you might particular want, but the results will be there and the longevity of the result will be there for you of what you've asked for.
I think we need to be open to receiving or seeing these things. Many of us, we're just so busy, we're not even looking. It just, it's off of our radar, and we miss it, and we miss a opportunity to maybe get a connection.
Very true. Very true. That I was that way. I would pay attention every 3 weeks, and now it's second to second, minute to minute, uh, hour to hour, and it's up to the individual who wants to, who's got the attitude, who wants to see it. Maybe no, not so much the attitude, but the right mindset in regards to wanting to connect or wanting to see or wanting to believe or wanting to understand the dimension that sits right next to us or the dimensions that sit right next to us. It's not just one. There's a handful that sit right next to us, and for us to pay attention to them, it's up to the individual for the most part. Yes.
Hmm. How do you ask? I want to go to the basics now. And even not being religious here, but I think people even struggle with how do I pray? What am I supposed to say? How does that go? So when you're asking for a sign, what kind of language should you use?
I just regularly speak to them. I talk to them just like I'm speaking with you, or I do it the other way, like I'm speaking with an animal, which is using my not so much abilities, but my what they've given us, and I guess they are called abilities, sure. And do it that way. My intuition, just intuitively, I'll just ask intuitively, and and usually they'll come around. It'll come around quite quickly, or it'll take the time it needs to take for you to go through what you're going through to get to where you need to get to, and that's when you'll feel the difference for sure.
Hmm. You just mentioned animal, so I'm intrigued. I'm kind of curious. How um how does that go? Do you, if you see an animal, do you get something from them? And can you connect with animals that have passed on?
Yes, I do both. I connect with animals that are here quite frequently, actually. Everybody around me has animals, has dogs and cats, and has them outside. So I do talk to animals quite frequently. And yes, I do connect with the animals in the spirit world quite easily. Usually in every reading, I'll have an animal that comes through it with inside the spirit world that has been on the earth plane at one time and is in the spirit world. So yes, both of those situations I do quite frequently.
Hmm.
And I enjoy actually too.
Yeah. Do you have any pets?
I don't. I used to. I don't have time. I'm not home enough to have pets, and it needs to be fair to the pets.
Sure, sure. I get you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have two cats that I got in the last year as kittens, and I know we talked briefly about past life, reincarnation, and such. I could swear one of them, at least one of them, has the same traits as a cat that passed on in 2019. Um, Looks very similar, but the same temperament. And the cat now, was gotten to help heal a member of the family. Um, is that even possible that the cat could be coming back?
Absolutely. The trade of the cat, sometimes the cat that passed over will send you to find another one that is directed to you by them. Uh, those things
Hmm.
are very common. Not by chance that happens. It is quite often in the animal kingdom or the animal world that those things do happen, specifically for, in your case, to heal a loved one that's still here, or for whatever reason it may be. But that particular cat will, or the cat that you have just got or discovered or were led to, whatever the case may be, was done by the cat on the other side, or the animal on the other side.
Uh, Thank you for saying that because I never thought that. I never thought that. I was more thinking maybe reincarnated because it's very similar, like very. Um, and there was a process. Both are rescues. Um, Looked at many different kittens, and there's something going on there. There's not even a doubt in my mind. So, like you say, the cat that passed on may have directed me to find one because that cat knew what I liked, knew, everybody has a different temperament and may have said, yeah, this is the one. This is the one that's going to serve you well in your situation. Hmm. Wow.
Very much so.
Well, thank you, Maestro. Hey, appreciate that wherever you are.
They
Uh,
heard you.
yeah. And I was there when he passed, and he was a great cat. And I rescued him. I rescued him as well. So maybe that was a payback. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. They certainly do that, Steve. There's no question about that. I have the um, I'm trying to find the right word, the to go there and to connect with them. And when I do see that, it happens more than you think, or more than one might think. Going through the number of clients that I go through, or I've gone through over the for the last year per se, let's say, uh, the numbers of that are quite more or quite higher than we might want to think they are. Specifically, that.
I don't have a doubt in my mind that there was intervention. Let's just, use that word. There was intervention there somehow. Um, are you saying, Tim, that many times when you do a reading, a pet comes up?
Every reading, usually I have a pet to come through, typically.
Wow.
I would say probably 99% of the readings I do, which is a lot in a week per se. I would say out of 99% of the time,
Wow.
yeah, in a sitting, yeah,
Wow.
that I would have a pet come through.
What do you get when it comes from a pet?
I just see the pet. I can see things. I can see spirit. That's always been my ability to do. And so when an animal comes through, I'll see them and they'll be here. And they'll usually possess the same characteristics they had on the earth plane. And the sitter will recognize, or my client will recognize quite quickly, just by what I'm saying, that that's the pet they used to have uh, a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. They remember it quite quickly, and it meant a lot to them. And that's why they'll recognize those very particular uh, characteristics of that particular pet.
You teach people how to do this. What is your suggestion for someone that just wants to maybe see a sign, feel something, experience something from the other side? Is it, sit quiet and meditate or try to, what are your suggestions for that?
I would say everything starts with sitting in a power, which is quieting your mind, sitting in a dark room, meditation, grounding and centering. They can't happen unless your mind is quite quiet at the time. Otherwise, it's still going to be racing while you're trying to do those things. So that would be the first thing I would recommend anybody to do, is just sit in a dark place, just leave your daily mind, your monkey mind behind, and just go to work and leave it all behind and go to the place. I'd like to say where the magic is. That's where my deal is. That's where I go. That's where I like to go. And you'll notice a difference, and it's different for everybody, but that's the place where it starts. And then the meditation, the grounding and centering, that can all start after that.
Hmm. Somebody has told me who has the ability, as you do, that she pretends, she closes her eyes, gets in a sort of meditative state, and she pretends that she's getting into an elevator, and the elevator takes her down to the ground floor, which is sand, and it's a beach. And she walks out onto the beach in her mind, and that's how she gets into her zone in order to bring messages from the other side. And that's her thing. What's your thing?
I just go, I just look. It takes about a second. I don't need, how anybody else does it is up to them. But for me, I just dial in, and that's what I call it too. I call it, it's exactly what it is. It's like dialing into a radio station, very much similar. I just dial into the person that's sitting across from me, and away I go. Things will start happening, and I'll start seeing and feeling and knowing, and that's where I go.
Wow.
And
So
and
you,
it's sorry,
please continue.
and it's fairly quick that it happens too. It's if your mind is quiet, and I've done it quite a long time. So for me too, I don't sit in the power or meditate very often anymore unless I can feel myself off center a little bit. But it happens quite quickly for me to where I can dial into the other side quite quickly with whoever's sitting across from me, and I'll start getting information quite quickly as well.
Hmm. Are you tapping into their, the person before you, the client's energy, or something within them to pull something from the other side?
I wouldn't say the person. I would say they're making me aware of who's here just by who's sitting across from me. So I'm not really dialing into their energy. That's a little different vibration. That's a psychic vibration.
Hmm.
I'm working with them per se because that's who's here, but I'm not dialing into them. I'm working with some. I go to another dimension or another world per se to get the information for the client who's sitting across from me, and that's exactly for me how it works.
So you say you're a medium. You just mentioned, that's a psychic thing. Uh, let's let's look at that. What's the difference between the two?
Sure.
I think there's confusion uh, between the two, between people.
Get this a lot actually. People said they've had a mediumship reading, and they'll say, well, they said my name, or they said this, or they said what's going on in my life and stuff like that. And that is a psychic reading more so than a mediumistic reading. Mediumship reading is going to the spirit world, connecting with the spirit world, seeing who's here, what they want, and the message they want to give, or messages per se. They might not bring one particular message. It could be many with inside the reading itself or the sitting itself. Psychic vibration is, and I don't want to upset anybody, but it's a little lower of a vibration mediumistically. You have psychic vibration, mediumistic vibration, and then the spirit world. I raise my vibration, they lower their vibration, and we meet in the middle. Hence, it's called mediumship, and that's the difference between the two vibrations.
So can a psychic get answers or messages from the other side?
If you can tell the difference of your vibration, absolutely you can. All mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums. That's the difference between the two.
Okay. Okay. I was going to say that because I've heard the term used before, psychic medium, insert the name. you know, I've heard that before. Okay.
So yeah, psychic medium's a little different than what I do. I'm an evidential medium, so everything that I bring through will have to be factual evidence from the spirit world that the client will be able to understand. Psychic mediumship is definitely different. it's more holistic. The vibration is a little different. The specifics aren't there. For me, my information has to be about 95% accurate. And, and I can't even comment on the psychic vibration of mediumistic work because I don't work there. I'm not familiar with exactly how they go about their business.
Do you feel we talk about vibration, which is connected to energy. Do you feel that, from people, their energy? Do you pick up on it?
Um, do I feel people's energy? I always feel people's energy. As soon as somebody comes across and sits down on my table, I've already read them. Typically, it usually takes a second or two to dial into them, and quite quickly you've read them and you understand. So yes, I do feel their energy quite uh, all the time.
Wow.
Too
Wow.
much.
Uh, has there been times that you had somebody sit before you and right away you're like, this is low vibration energy. I don't know where this is gonna go.
All the time.
Hmm.
Yes, a lot. I shouldn't say that because that's not really fair to the client. Yes,
I don't mean that in a
sometimes you
negative.
do.
I don't mean that in a negative
Yeah,
way, but it
yeah,
maybe it's going to be best description here. Maybe a little more work for you just based on what you're working with.
absolutely. Very much so. And quite often what I will tell the client is this is your sitting, this is your reading. They've come to see you. This isn't you judging me because I'm long past that point in time. They've come to see you now. You have to really pay attention to what's going on here because they want to talk to you and they're going to talk to you through me. So, and that quite often raises the vibration quite quickly. The client realizes, okay, yeah, that's a good point, and away we go. And typically that sorts out the issue, and the readings usually turn out quite well after that, to
Wow.
be honest.
So
Yeah,
let's tell everybody if they want to get a reading, if they want, you can do it virtually, right? Anywhere
absolutely.
on the planet, and they would just reach out to you by way of the website, and they could just set up an appointment. Or even if you have questions, I'm sure lots of us have questions about this whole process, right?
Absolutely. Lots of questions, lots of different questions, lots of great questions, lots of familiar questions, but lots of questions in general. Absolutely.
What is in the seconds we have left here? I'm kind of curious. What is the most unusual question you ever got from somebody regarding readings? Anything
Ooh.
that stands out, or even somebody specifically asking for something of a loved one? Maybe validation. I don't know.
Validation always pops itself up. What most people are asking for sometimes is a specific spirit to come through. Now, we don't have a say in that, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. That's a-okay. Now, I've had clients come to me that want specific clients, and we do reach them. And sometimes they won't go any further than recognizing them. They might go into one or two things, but then they might take off and just go into this beautiful sitting that the parents or whoever may be wanted from, say, their daughter or something like that. Yes.
Wow, wow, and that's got to be the toughest thing uh, when you're doing a reading and a child comes through, right?
Sometimes it's very difficult. What the child has to say is probably uh, that'll tell you how difficult the scenario has been, or is, or was, or so.
Wow,
Or it could turn out to be beautiful, actually, and turn into a cloud of roses, and it's just beautiful, right? Because they got to say what they wanted to say without and giving the information to their parents before, or what they wanted to say before they left the earth plane and didn't get the chance to.
wow.
Yeah.
Your website is your name, Tim Medium, spelled just like it sounds, timmedium.com. And you're there. You're available. You're back home now. I know you've been touring.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and available if anybody wants a reading or has questions or whatever, timmedium.com. Tim, always great talking with you.
Thanks so much, Steve. You as well. I appreciate it.
Yep. Be well and we'll talk soon, okay?
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.